Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is a hot take presented by the Front Porch Tailgate. I'm Michael Scott.
And I'm Byron Hazley. Mike, thanks for having me on, man. This is something that's kind of near and dear to both of our hearts, so I'm happy we're able to hop on and have a quick conversation about this.
Absolutely, Byron. I thought it was absolutely necessary that we jumped on here today and spoke a little bit in detail about the recent news that's transpired here in Detroit. So Wednesday, the Detroit Lions traded Darius Slay for 3rd and 5th round picks in the upcoming NFL draft. Now, after the split, a Free Press story broke suggesting that there were two incidents between Lions coach Matt Patricia and cornerback Darius Slay early in Patricia's tenure in Detroit that began a rift between the two that might have contributed to Slay being traded. Now, the first incident, Byron, was a one-on-one meeting with Patricia after Slay had returned from working out with Richard Sherman, Aqib Talib, and Xavier Rhodes. Those are pretty good cornerbacks, wouldn't you agree?
Decent, to say the least.
Decent, if nothing else. Now, Slay had just come off his first Pro Bowl appearance, and he had garnered an All-Pro nod. And he led the NFL that season with 8 interceptions. And in the meeting, the next season, Slay said Patricia told him he wasn't elite. The incident really that bothered Slay more happened later during a team meeting after a training camp practice that led the two to basically never see eye to eye from then on. Slay got burned during a preseason game by an unnamed receiver a few times. Slay then proceeded to post a picture on social media about him and the receiver.
He had posted a picture off my Instagram into the team meeting room and told me to stop sucking this man privates. So I said, I'm like, what? People just don't say that to folks and be like, cool with it. I got to be like somebody you don't like. So I took it offensively. Glover Quinn, he saved me through the whole process, man. Him and Quandre talking me through it. I had great leadership. Everybody just like leave it alone. But shoot, that was a real deal. Like I couldn't do that. I don't got nothing wrong with him being a coach. It's just as a man and as a human being, because I look at him as a man, and I know I wouldn't say that to him. So I don't think it's disrespect to our game or how he coached or whatever. But as a man, it was just different for us. Like, it was a different vibe. Like I said, I respect him as a coach. You can coach me up in whatever you need me to do, but as a man, it was not going on like that.
Patricia used the social media photo at the start of a team meeting along with a small highlight tape of said player burning the cornerback on the board in front of everybody before addressing Slay. Did you read that article by Dave Burkett of the Detroit Free Press?
I did read that article, Mike.
What did he actually say?
He told him to stop sucking the player's dick. Yeah.
It's pretty.
We're an explicit podcast, so we can feel free to let that go.
Yeah, that's what I got on my end when reviewing the article. I just really couldn't believe it. What was your initial reaction to the news?
It's very similar to yours, Mike. I go, are you serious? Are you kidding me? No wonder we never had a chance at bringing Slay back. Even if we wanted to bring him back, he wanted no parts of it.
Right.
He wanted no parts of it from the get-go because him and the head coach, they never saw eye to eye. As a matter of fact, I think the article was titled that Slay had lost all respect for Matt Patricia from the get-go.
Right. And you gotta honestly question the tactics. I'm sure initially by telling them he's not elite that Matt Patricia's intentions were to challenge the cornerback. However, that's something more of a veteran type head coach, may have a little reign to do. Not a rookie head coach with no NFL head coaching experience.
Absolutely, Mike. He had no business saying anything like that. Like, who is Matt Patricia? You know,
Right.
like you haven't done anything as a head coach. And you know, the more I think about it, I kind of think it's more of a statement made by a coordinator than a head coach. So it just shows you kind of the unprofessionalism that we're dealing with here.
I completely agree with you. That's not really a way to come in to a new franchise, into a new job, and really win over your star players, your locker room leaders, or essentially win over the locker room at all.
No way. I mean, for a coach to come in I mean, Darius Slay came out and said, like, he went into shock when he told him that. Like, at the end of the day, I'm a man first, you know, and that's where he's from and where most people are from. Someone tells you to stop sucking someone's dick, there's going to be some words said or some hands thrown.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. In my opinion, maybe as far as what he was attempting to do, highlight the receiver, challenge him, may have been good intentions, but the way he communicated that message to Darius Slay specifically and really in front of the rest of the team was not a proper way of doing so, in my opinion.
I agree 100%, Mike. I mean, I think that's just sheer disrespect, man. Sheer disrespect.
The incident Slay described in front of the team was corroborated by two other players who were in the room at the time. They asked to remain silent. A third player who was in the meeting but didn't recall exactly what Patricia said indicated the coach would often make attempts at humor that would fall flat with the majority of the room. When asked about the incident by ESPN, Patricia declined to comment on the report.
Yeah, he's not going to own it.
Right. If you're a head coach, that'd be suicide to come out and say, hey, I said that,
Right.
But he did say, over the last 2 seasons, Darius and I have had multiple conversations in private that I believed were constructive and satisfactory. My discussions with athletes are confidential, and I won't comment on anything discussed with our players in a team meeting. I appreciate his hard work and wish he and his family all the success in Philadelphia. So hearing that, Byron, are you concerned about the current culture of the Detroit Lions under Matt Patricia?
I mean, he's come in with the mindset of it's his way or the highway type deal. And if people aren't buying in, they're getting rid of them, and it's evident based on the turnover that we've seen in that roster. We've seen them bring in, they're trying to do a little bit of Patriots West here in Detroit, and you see they're bringing in a lot of Patriots guys, a lot of guys that are used to that style of coaching because it's a different breed of coaching that most people aren't used to. I believe Slay started with Jim Schwartz as his first head coach. So 180 from that time to this time as far as how things are getting done.
No, I completely agree with you. When you take a look at it, obviously I believe myself personally in building a culture, having the right pieces and fit. Sometimes you have good players, but they're not the right players for your system. However, this is a situation really where I look at it like Matt Patricia came in and he really just completely mismanaged the relationship with Darius Slay. Obviously, he was offended, but, we're looking at a situation where if Matt Patricia would have proceeded with a little more caution or taken a different approach, where Darius Slay could still be a vital piece of the defense in this rebuild.
No, I agree 100%, Mike. I mean, there were murmurs coming out of their first training camp that guys didn't like playing for him. He's working them way too hard. There was just a lot of things going on at that time that people just simply, they weren't buying in, and we saw that in his first game ever. They got bombed by the Jets. Guys just flat out gave up. Now, there's been a lot that's happened since then. He's been trying to get his players in there, people that believe in his philosophy. And, as Lions fans, that's something that we've had to deal with because of that.
No, I completely agree with you. The frustration does build up, and it really builds up to players and fans all around the Detroit Lions organization. Now, one person came out, former Detroit Lions player Dan Orlovsky. He was on ESPN's Get Up, and he commented on the situation. Did you get to see that?
No, what did Dan have to say?
Dan said that Matt Patricia came in as a defensive mind, and they're in the bottom third in basically every category last season when it comes to defensive football. He also went on to say, when you're a coach, you're supposed to figure out a way to build up your players. Every coach that I've ever been around that was worth something would always go, you will become who you spend your time with. So yes, go work out with Aqib Talib and Richard Sherman. Figure out what has allowed them to play at such a high level and see if you can even become better. You don't talk like that to your players, let alone one of his best players on your team. The Lions organization has an issue with their head coach, and that pains me to say because I root for them heavily.
So if you're just weighing who has done more within their job for the organization, it's Darius Slay. I think that the reality is this: when you're a new head coach coming into the NFL, really in any situation, but coming into the NFL, and RC knows this, the locker room is the players. The meeting rooms are often, it's the player space. It's their space to continue to grow in their job. And you can't, as a coach, then walk into that space and try to take a shot at one of your players because he doesn't do something that you like. And that's where the line was crossed by Matt Patricia here. He took a dig at Darius Slay because he didn't like it, and it was in his space.
So, hearing that, Byron, my question to you is, do you agree with Orlovsky's take, or do you have an issue with this modern ideology of training with opponents?
Couldn't agree more. I know also during that meeting, at least the quote was from Slay, was that Matt Patricia was accusatory of him, saying that he gave him information that would help them. And that would help Richard Sherman. They just had you come work out with them to get information on the Lions. And Slay was like, how's he going to get information on the Lions? I play defense. They play defense. I don't know the offense.
Right. And really, I mean, why would you essentially want to diss one of your best players, an upper
Someone
echelon
that can help you win the locker room.
Right, an upper echelon cornerback, if nothing else, that is trying to go out and network with other top-tier cornerbacks to improve his craft. This is something you see in basketball all the time in the off-season. This is something that's been going on in football for quite a long time. Matt Patricia has been working with Bill Belichick in New England, where they really do like a Patriots, like it's us against the world thing.
The Patriot way.
And really, that's not something that's been instilled in Detroit. It wasn't like that before he got there. So I don't understand why he would think that after getting a job and being there for a couple months that it would immediately change.
Yeah, I mean, it's ignorance. Ignorance is bliss, man. And like I said last week on our latest podcast, I've gotten the feeling that these guys just don't know what they're doing at this point.
Yeah, make sure you guys go out and check that out. That's the Front Porch Tailgate number 28. That was me and Byron last Wednesday. We spoke in detail a little bit more about the current state of the Detroit Lions after the initial kickoff of free agency. Now, you said you read the article from the Free Press, right?
Mm-hmm.
During that article, when Stephen with Dave Burkett, Slay explained, he told me in front of the whole team, in the team meeting room, showed clips of me in practice, getting a ball caught on me. I posted a picture of a wide receiver on Instagram, and he told me stop sucking this man's private. So I'm like, whoa. I'm like, hold up. Where I'm from, that don't fly, because I wouldn't say that to him. I wouldn't say to him to stop, what to Bill Belichick. I wouldn't do that. That's just not me as a man. That's disrespectful to me. And so from there on, it was done with. Now, according to Sports Illustrated, a Lions source informed the Free Press that he considered Slay a major cancer throughout the 2019 season after these events transpired in 2018. According to the Free Press report, Slay would attend meetings and not pay any attention then he would proceed to get in the locker room and tell other players how the coaches are full of shit. So,
interesting.
Is this
personality... Slay was...
Go ahead.
Go ahead with your question.
I was going to ask you, is this personality clash a bigger indictment on Matt Patricia's lack of competence as a head coach or Darius Slay's character?
Well, I mean, I think it's interesting that they say he came in and he didn't really pay attention. Well, the majority of the season, Darius Slay was hurt this year. He sat out many games due to injury this season. So,
well, it looks like from what I'm looking at that he sat out 2 games, but I know he played a lot of the year hurt and he missed a lot of practice time.
Yeah. Really, he only sat out 2 games? I thought he was sitting more than that.
Nope. But, he played in 14 games. Yep.
Okay. Well, I know that's interesting, but nonetheless, I mean, I think when you're done with someone, especially as a professional, when they're making more money than the coach, that's why you see such a high turnover in coaching, because they lose the locker room. And I think Slay was one of those guys that he lost him immediately, and he didn't care. Like I think he said directly in the article, if he wasn't talking to him about football, about what he can do to get better as a player, he didn't care what he had to say.
Right.
And it was as simple as that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's a bigger indictment on, Matt Patricia's lack of competence, really, because like you mentioned, at this point in time, he's won 9 games in 2 years, and it seems like he has lost the locker room. You've alienated probably the best player on your team on the defensive side of the ball, and now you've shipped him out of town for a 3rd and 5th round pick when you're supposed to be getting better and competing for a playoff spot. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, and really, the timing of the Sports Illustrated report after this has all gone down is what really stands out to me, because a lot of times when you hear a player's disgruntled in the locker room, like we've heard the reports with him over the past year or so, you would have heard that cancer take already at a certain point. Now that it's all said and done, he's spoken out against Matt Patricia, now a Lions source, and I say that in quotes, or parentheses, that says that he's a locker room cancer. I'm not really buying that. Slay's a guy who's been beloved by Lions fans. They call him Big Play Slay. This guy makes plays all over the field. He plays hard every single game. He's only missed 9 games since entering the league. And
I mean, he even goes out Friday nights and attends high school football games.
Right.
In fact, he was in
football
Port
games,
Huron.
basketball games.
Yeah.
He was in Port Huron to watch that big matchup when they had the crosstown rivalry earlier this year. Yeah, so this is a guy who at other points in time shows really good character, and we know he's been unhappy since the team traded his best friend in the locker room, Glover Quinn, to Seattle, which was also surprising at the time.
Glover actually was cut. He traded Diggs.
That's
to
right.
Seattle.
Thank you.
Yeah. But go ahead.
So basically, the Eagles turn around, trade for Slay. He's back to playing with his former head coach, Jim Schwartz, the guy who initially drafted him. He's the defensive coordinator of the Eagles now. They turn around and sign Slay to a 3-year, $50 million extension with $30 million guaranteed. Are they getting an elite cornerback, or is Detroit dodging a bullet long term?
Absolutely, they're getting an elite cornerback. I think. How old is Slay? Is he 29?
He's 29 years old.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. They're getting an elite cornerback in his prime. And given that the way that Jim Schwartz calls his defense with a lot of blitzes, it's going to make him look a lot better because he doesn't have to cover that long. So for the amount of time that he does cover, this will give him even more opportunities to make plays because QBs will be trying to get rid of the ball quicker. They've got the skill players defensively to put pressure on opposing offenses. So it's a win for Slay in a big way. And I believe he signed an extension as part of that trade. A 3-year extension.
I completely agree with you. Yep.
Yeah.
I completely agree with you. You know, I think Darius Slay, a lot of people, I've even heard people on social media calling him toast because he got burned a few times last year. But with the state of the Lions defense last year and the lack of a pass rush, how long do you expect this guy to continue covering a wide receiver? This is a guy who has had 19 interceptions since entering the league. He's also credited with having 104 pass defenses in that time, which is the most since he entered that league. Other players around the league, like Richard Sherman, have stepped up and commented that Darius Slay is a very good player, a very good cornerback. In my opinion, he is elite, and I think the Detroit Lions are making a big mistake in letting this guy go. Because what they need, really, Byron, is talent. It's something
I agree.
They've lacked long term. We've talked about this at length. You know, they want to essentially build a culture. Well, what they really need to do is acquire talent. You know, when they brought in Matt Patricia, it wasn't supposed to be with the idea of them entering a full rebuild. It was to usher them into the playoffs, and they've really regressed and taken steps back since the split with Jim Caldwell.
Yeah, I mean, they've got some figuring out to do, I'll be honest with you. Like I said, I'm questioning their ability to know what they're doing. And this is just an obvious take here. I mean, you go and sign a cornerback. Why not keep Slay? You got a third and a fifth round pick for him. You would have got a third, at least a third, if you would have let him walk after the season. If you guys are truly trying to win football games, why aren't you keeping the best players available to you?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. So real quick, my last question to you. If you're Martha Ford and you're hearing about all this after what's transpired the past 2 seasons, where do you go from here? What are your next steps for getting this franchise headed in the right direction?
Well, you're in too deep at this point, Mike. You just have to let it play out. You have to let them do whatever they're doing. You have to let them at least give them this year, because they brought in all these players. All right, you brought in these guys. Let's see what you got. Because if you don't get it done this year, I'm hitting the reset button. Because at this point, what will this be? Year 3 for Patricia? Year 5 for
Bob Quinn.
What's the GM's name?
Bob Quinn.
Yeah, yep. So, I mean, you guys have had long enough at that point. I mean, we'll see. We got to see some improvement this year, in my mind, for them to keep their jobs.
I completely agree. Lastly, Byron, are the Detroit Lions this upcoming season going to be worth the price of admission?
I mean, will there be a price of admission with everything that's going on? But, I mean, in my opinion, no. People need to just stay home. Stay home.
No, I agree with you. It's about, at this point, the fans need to make a stand. It'd be nice if we could actually buy the team from Martha Ford as a fan base, kind of like the Green Bay Packers own their team. Fans own their team. But that's wishful thinking.
Very wishful. They're not giving up that.
So that's it for today. This is a hot take presented to you by the Front Porch Tailgate. Make sure you guys go out and check us out on Instagram. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. It's available on all major platforms, including Apple, Google, and Spotify. Also, make sure to check us out on Facebook. A lot of content is there as well. Byron, do you have anything to say to everybody real quick?
No, just continue to check us out. We'll continue to push out more and more content. Look for the 29th episode coming out this week. Thanks for tuning in.
Have a great rest of your night, guys. Thank you. You've been listening to the Front Porch Tailgate. I'm Michael Scott.
And I'm Byron Hazley. Be blessed.